cocktail sessions, educational and inspirational talks from experienced startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
Hey everybody. So I usually speak for like 60, 90 minutes at a time, and so this is actually harder to do a short talk than a long talk because I get very rambly and stuff. I originally was going to talk about what I do and sort of the formula I put my ideas through, but I've had some really inspiring conversations over the last like 48 hours, and I sort of reimagined a very different talk. I have like a cheat sheet here, so pardon me if I just stumble and look down at my phone. But I wanted to talk about taking chances with your marketing, and this is something that I do every day. It's kind of what I'm known for. It's the only reason people hire me. And you know, I really want to stress the importance of taking risks and even crossing the line. So I did a talk a couple of days ago for a government organization, very, blue suit, red tie, very, professional and conservative. And the first slide in my talk was a screen grab of a text message that somebody sent me, a woman, just to be clear. And on the text message, on this screen, giant auditorium, 100 feet wide, it said, I don't know what part of my body loves you more, my labia majora or my labia minora. And you can see that it, it's kind of a similar reaction I got here. And the second slide, so I want you guys to know I apologize for this talk already. I'm sorry. but on the second slide of my talk, it said, one of the things I love most about making love to you is that I can actually feel a part of your heart breaking every time we do it, because even though I know you love me, I know I'm not the one that you want to be with. And I put that up there, besides the fact it's like the saddest, craziest thing anyone's ever said to me. It's also kind of interesting because this woman is my psychiatrist who sent it to me, so she obviously knows me and knows all my secrets. And the point I was trying to make by putting that up in that talk was that she is right, and the reason is because I'm crazy about someone else who lives far away, and most of our relationship is online. So the talk I was doing was really to demonstrate how if all of your relationships are online, and that whether it be with your customers or whether it be with your real world relationships, it's never going to be enough, and you're always going to want more, and people are going to stray, and it's sort of a thing. That's not what I wanted to talk about now. I wanted to demonstrate. I wanted to throw that out because, who doesn't want to tell that story? But besides that, I want to use that same example in a very different way. I want to talk about taking risks and sort of crossing the line and going beyond what most people would think is good taste. One of the things I'm really good at is just sort of understanding people. And when I work with startups, I try to really dive into their customer base, and I talk to hundreds and hundreds of customers because I want to know exactly where that line of good taste is, and I want to cross it. But I want to cross it with 2 baby steps. Because if you jump over that line, it's going to blow up in your face, and people are going to get angry, and people are going to insult and stuff like that. But it's that small little gap where the good taste is and where you want to go. That's where all the memories are made. And when you're marketing a startup, there's millions of other startups who are all screaming, and they're all wearing their t-shirts, and they're all doing that stuff, and they're all giving out their stickers. It is the noisiest place in the world trying to get attention for your startup. And this is your life. This is what you've devoted all your time and energy to. So you have to actually take it super seriously, and you have to get customers, and you have to get revenue, and you have to get traction, and all those things. So crossing the line of good taste is really where people remember you. And being remembered is half the battle. Because when most startups describe themselves as, I'm the Netflix of whatever, and things like that. And if you're able to do that, there's so many companies who are fighting for the same sort of space. So, I can't stress enough how important it is to sort of cross the line. I'm going to give you a couple quick examples of stuff I've done in my career. How much time do I have? I don't want to ruin things. I'll say 20 minutes. Okay, cool. So a couple examples. 3 or 4 years ago at South by Southwest, assuming you guys all know what South by Southwest is, I won't explain it. I threw a giant ranch party. And we had this like crazy big ranch, and we got Salt Lick to cater it, and we had Greyhound buses ushering people from the convention center thing. We had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and by hundreds and hundreds, I mean like we had like 100 people or 200 people, I don't know. But if you're a marketer, you always add like 2 times 2 to everything. The day that we had this party was the day after Whitney Houston died. And you know, it was a big deal. Everybody was talking about it. And I was trying to think so hard, what's like the last thing we could do to make this the best party ever? And of course, the answer was hire a Whitney Houston impersonator, because she just died. And we introduced her as Whitney Houston, and we didn't make any big deal of it. It was just like, we didn't say, you know, this is a tribute, we didn't say anything. It was just like, ladies and gentlemen, we have a big surprise for you. It's Whitney Houston. And this woman went up and did like a couple songs, and you know, everyone talked about the food, and everyone talked about the mechanical bull. But it was the Whitney Houston thing that I got stopped on the street for the next like 2 days, people telling me it was like the funniest thing they'd ever seen. And because they stopped me, I was able to then again reinforce, you know, the brand that I was talking for, you know, why they should try our product and all those things. Because I had these people captive. They wanted to speak to me. They wanted to know what was going on. One idea that I didn't do, but it's maybe my favorite idea I've ever come up with, and this is a perfect example of going too far across the line, but I used to work for a company called FreshBooks. It's one of the world's largest online invoicing services, and I'm a very literal thinker. When somebody throws out an idea and says, you know, we should kill the mascot, I'm thinking, yeah, let's kill the mascot. So we had this, like, you know, this animated caricature guy. He was like a man with a briefcase, and for like 5 years, he was sort of the image of the company. We had named him Ivan. He was kind of a persona of people who use our product. And when we decided that we were going to, you know, retire Ivan and go to this like animated squirrel guy, I pitched this so hard, because like, even though we didn't do it, this is like the greatest idea ever of crossing the line. I wanted to keep Ivan in all the banners and all of our advertising for another 6 months, but over the course of the 6 months, he would get thinner and thinner and thinner until he was finally sitting and he had an IV, and then eventually he would die. And we would release a press release saying that Ivan is dead and here's our new mascot. Because, you know, like, just swapping out mascots isn't going to get any attention and no one's going to notice it. But if you give your character AIDS or leukemia or something like that, it's going to get a lot of attention. So that was crossing the line a little too far, and I didn't get to do it. But, you know, like, other examples, you know, like, ideas are everywhere. You know, like, I like to think that I consume tons of books, tons of movies, documentaries, TV shows, all those things. I travel a lot. I have a lot of time on airplanes to watch, like, all sorts of stuff. I don't read business books. I don't read stuff because I'm very afraid that if I read, like, I'm going to read Frank's book, trust me, but other books and stuff like that. I'm afraid if I'm reading everything that everyone else is reading, I'm going to have the exact same ideas as everyone else, and all of my ideas are going to be derivative. So I just read anything I feel like. And so I recently read, and by recently I mean like 3 years ago, I read the biography of Evel Knievel. And I love Evel Knievel. He's like a hero of mine, even though he's a horrible person and a racist and all sorts of that stuff. You know, like, I got this idea from reading the book that, you know, we should, you know, as a stunt at a conference to, you know, get attention and things, I recreated the Evel Knievel jumping over like school buses and stuff like that. And all my best ideas come from personal need, and I needed an Evel Knievel jumpsuit, and I needed someone else to buy it for me. So I devised this idea where, and this was really expensive. Most of my ideas are very inexpensive. I've got sort of a reputation of being able to do a lot of amazing things on small budgets, but I spent a lot of money on this because it was freaking awesome. But we built ramps, we got 2 school buses, and I had an Evel Knievel jumpsuit, which I still sometimes wear around the house. And if you guys ever saw Evel Knievel jump on Wide World of Sports, it would be like a 45-minute show for him to jump 30 seconds long. So he would ride around, he would go up to the top of the ramp, take his helmet off, talk about Jesus, put the helmet back on, do some wheelies, and keep doing all that stuff. So I built these ramps. Well, I didn't build them, someone else built them, but we had these ramps. They were all branded. There was hashtags, there was promo codes, there was everything all over these ramps. And we got all these people, almost everybody at this conference. We're in this field that was across the street from the convention center, and I'm in my jumpsuit, and I'm on my motorcycle, and I'm just doing, just going in circles around the ramp. I go to the top of the ramp, I take my helmet off, and I elevator pitch these people our product for like 5 full minutes. I go do a couple more laps, and the reason I kept driving in circles is we purposely only put like a thimble of gas in the motorcycle because there was no way I was actually going to jump over school buses, and I was just waiting for the motorcycle to run out of gas. And once the motorcycle ran out of gas, I walked to the top of the ramp. I was all, sort of self-effacing and like, I feel so ridiculous. I am so embarrassed. I'm going to give everybody here a free month of our product. Thank you for coming and all these things. And we created this spectacle, and again, for the next 2 days of the conference, people were ridiculing me that I didn't jump over the school buses, but that was never the intention anyways. The intention was just to get people to take a lot of pictures and try our product for 30 days. So these are crazy examples of things that go really overboard. You don't have to always cross the line. If you don't want to cross the line, just make sure whatever you do is very, very, very memorable. Something that's going on as we speak that I'm really proud of is I've been doing some work with a company called Nuvango. Nuvango is it's an art marketplace where some of the most interesting artists in the world post up art. You can either buy prints, canvases, or you can put them on tech accessories, all sorts of things. One of the things I initiated so that we could promote our product was I bought 3 back covers for the next 3 issues of a fancy art magazine. The first one the issue that's out right now, I left the back cover completely blank, with just on the bottom of the page is instructions. And we basically tell people if they ever wanted to see their art on the cover of this magazine, draw it right on the cover, tweet us, put it on Facebook, use our hashtag, all that stuff. And anyone who does has a chance to actually have their art on the next 2 covers. So we'll pick 2 people on who did all this thing and go. And one of the reasons we're doing it is, one, it's sort of an emotional thing. People think it's really cool. They're going to draw on the magazine. They've got it. They'll post it. We're going to clog up the internet with our hashtag. But beyond that, we're looking for more artists. And if people will actually take the time to show us their work while promoting our business, we can reach out to these people independently and invite them onto our platform. And beyond that, it's a really cool conversation piece and things like that. So, as long as what you're doing is memorable, you don't have to offend people. I actually think you should never offend people, but there is nothing wrong with sort of stunning people. But it's so important to take chances because this is your life, this is your livelihood, and you could have the greatest product or company in the world, and if nobody knows about it, it's just a real shame. That's all I got. Thank you.
Questions for Saul?
I usually get no questions because people are afraid to ask me anything.
This crowd's fearless. I'm going to start here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious, what is your lamest campaign that you hate to talk about?
That I hate to talk about? I talk about everything. Even if something doesn't go as well as I hoped it would go, there's always some kernel of goodness in it. I know before we talked about failure and all that stuff. I've never had a failure in my life, and that's just because I find something good in everything. If I didn't meet all my goals, there was at least some learning lesson or something to build off of and things. So I talk about everything, good or bad. I love to talk about the stuff I do. And when I speak at conferences, I never talk about any example that I haven't done personally because I want you people to be able to ask me anything from where did the idea come from all the way to was it successful in execution. And if I'm standing up and talking about something Zappos did or Apple or whoever, anything I tell you will just be speculation and stuff like that. So I only talk about myself and I talk about all the stuff because I'm proud of just about everything I've done.
it's everything you've describes getting people's attention, bringing them in, and making them talk about what the company's doing. How do you, outside of the obvious, have an amazing product? Everybody thinks their product's amazing. It's like kids. Everybody thinks their own kids are amazing. How do you maintain that attention over long periods of time? What is your sort of prescription or strategy behind that?
So with what I do, and this may be horrible advice, so please don't take it as fact, I never talk about the product ever. Once you get involved in a product conversation, almost every product out there from A to Z, it's a 15-minute conversation, even if it's that long. And if all you're doing is talking about your product, there's nothing that anyone's going to turn to their friend or neighbor. Like, nobody's going to turn to their neighbor and go, wow, did you know you could double-click that? That's like amazing. So what you really need to do, or what I do, is I just create experiences and create experience after experience after experience, because, and this is like one of the sort of theories I had when I was coming up with all of these sort of ideas, but when I was working at FreshBooks, this was an online invoicing service. But besides the fact that we could only really have customers who had businesses and were looking for invoicing, it was really only for people whose companies were small enough that they didn't have a bookkeeper. So that shrunk, our possible target even much smaller. So there was maybe 2% of the population that could even use this product, but 100% of the population could talk about our product. And there's no way I could find everybody who was a possible target. So if I created experience after experience after experience, like the Evel Knievel thing, nobody's going to talk about an invoicing service, but they are going to talk about, some overweight dude in a Evel Knievel jumpsuit and stuff like that. And then people will be like, well, what company would possibly do that? And they're like, I don't know, this FreshBooks company. And then they'll go to the website. My job is, and this isn't for everybody, but my role is not to convert customers. My job is to get people to the website. It's the designers and the developers whose job is to convert it. My job is to fill the top funnel with like so many people that even the people that bail, there's still going to be tons and tons and tons of people signing up and stuff like that. So yeah, I never talk about the product because, like, at least with some of the products that I've represented, love the companies, love everything about them. I'm not embarrassed by anybody I've ever worked for. I'm reasonably selective. But sometimes, like with online invoicing, I was not in love with online invoicing. I loved the promise that people could work for themselves. I love the promise that people were doing what they love for a living. And I love the promise that if you happen to find yourself out of work, this was a really elegant solution on how to freelance or how to be a consultant or how to do those things. So I loved the bigger picture, and that was something I could get very excited about, and that was what I sold. I didn't sell, hey, this can customize this, or this will send automatic triggers, or you've got a dashboard and stuff like that. Because I truly believe your best bet is to hit as wide an audience as possible with interesting things, and they will find their friends. Even if they can't use your product, they will talk about it to other people. And if I stand up and say, use this product, you're going to say, well, that guy works for the company. Of course he's going to say, use this product. But if your friend says, you should really check out this product, it's like 75% chance you're going to actually do it. And by 75, I just made that up. It's probably even more.
More questions? I always go to the wrong side first.
So how do you determine which is over the line and which isn't over the line?
You absolutely have to know your customers. You cannot take a chance with this because you could so easily ruin your business. So that's why I say baby steps. Baby steps, you can actually make a mistake and it not blow up in your face and things like that. But you have to know your customers, and that speaks to actually going out, talking to them on the phone, sending emails, going to conferences, having little meetups with your customers, buying them drinks, whatever way you want to use. But you have to know that you have to know what you can get away with, and then you have to take it one step too far. But if you have no idea what you can get away with, you could be making, whatever. I'm not even going to make an example, but you could really, it could blow up in your face and stuff like that. I think American Apparel is a really interesting example, and I know I just said I never talk about anyone else, but they're kind of fascinating because I love Dev Charney. I think he's like a misunderstood genius, but they push the limits way beyond good taste, But at the same time, that's their brand. So it's like, I always scratch my head when people are like, whoa, American Apparel really did it this time. I'm like, that's all you should expect from American Apparel. That's like everything they believe in, and they just beat it to death and stuff like that. But, you know, to people who aren't their customers, they're offended by it. But I don't think their customers are offended by it. So they get press from people who will never buy from them anyways, and they get, you know, they just reinforce everything with the people who love them.
So the follow-up question to that is...
I didn't think we were allowed follow-up questions.
What about demographic differences in reaction? Like you have a wide demographic, and one demographic is going to be okay with something, and one demographic is not.
You're never going to make everybody happy. So you pick, you know, the largest group of people and go with it. So like a perfect example is, and when I was working at FreshBooks, before Obama was elected, you know, the very first time, if you guys remember do you guys remember the whole Obama Shepherd Ferry poster? So it was like the whole hope thing, you know. Anyways, a customer of ours made like a little widget where you could upload any picture you want, and it would kind of take your picture and make it look like the Obama thing. So I thought it was harmless and thought it was whatever. I included it in a newsletter and said, hey, like Obamify yourself. It was like, it was lazy and it was stupid, but whatever. I got so much hate email from people who hated Obama and thought we were making a political statement, when I just thought I was sending out, you know, like a dumb kind of like time waster or whatever. I got like people, because I'm Jewish, I got people sending Hitler done in that thing, calling me a bad person and things. But at the same time, like, I don't care. Like, I'd rather just people talk about it. Like, I did nothing wrong. Like, nothing I've ever done is blown up in my face, because like I'm very calculated. I'm very like, I kind of know the outcome ahead of time, and I know who I'm going to offend, and I know, you know, where the line is and stuff like that. Even with, you know, like, it's kind of baby steps, and you keep pushing and pushing. Coke does this thing for their content. Do you guys know about the 70-20-10 rule? So 70-20-10 rule is 70% of all your content should be super safe. No, it wouldn't even like bat an eyelash for anybody. The 20% is where you lightly experiment, and you just sort of like something that made people just go like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And 10% should be edgy. And that 10% is just to test the waters and see what you can get away with. And the plan is to try to move that 10%, push the envelope. You move the 10% into the 20 into the 70, and then you just keep experimenting with that 10 to try to like push the limits a little further and a little further. That's like kind of what I do. When I start off, you do a couple little things that aren't that risky, and then like, you know, when I was at FreshBooks, I knew exactly where the line was. I took 100 of our customers to see, do you guys know what air guitar is, like air guitar and stuff like that? So there's this thing called air sex, where it's like people just stand up on stage fully clothed and pantomime like sex acts, and it's this like judged thing, and it's crazy. But I took 100 customers to go see this, because I knew those 100 people completely on a personal level, and I knew none of them would be offended. So I sent them an email personally. It wasn't like a blast email. I was like, hey, I'm in town. There's this wacky thing. Would you want to come with me? I'll buy everybody tickets. Like 100 people showed up. And it was like, we had a great time, because I totally knew those people, and I knew we can get away with, and they knew my brand. They knew, like, I'm pretty much, you know, what you see on stage is what I am online. It's what everything and stuff like that. I don't really hide too much, like, you know, stuff like that. So people kind of know what to expect when, you know, I invite them to something. So, you know, it's about what you want your company personality to be. And that's really important, because companies have to have personalities.
All right, well, thank you so much, Saul. Everyone, please give him a big round of applause.